Well, hello. Welcome to the 14th day of May, 2022. I'm Kurt. This is Ollie. And this is the Good Life Meditation. Hey, I've got Going Alone back. This is the third edition, finally out and available at goingalone.org. Anyway, straighten up, Kurt. This is my Good Life Meditation, my daily activity of reminding myself of my life's objectives and principles, and to see how I did applying those to the opportunities and challenges of yesterday, as well as the planning for today. So let's do this. Yesterday and last night, slept good last night. I was up, nothing on my mind, just my body was up. It was like a watchman that had nothing to watch. I had nothing on my mind because my work was a great day yesterday. Wow, I really tackled a big challenge yesterday that's been on my mind. And I woke up, yesterday was a Friday, and a Friday's, I get every other Friday off at work. This was a Friday on, which that's the way the organization works. Everybody can pick one or the other Friday to have off. And as a result, half the organization is gone on any particular Friday. It's a schedule, right? You get the same Fridays, alternating. So I had no meetings, although Yumiko laughed. She said in the morning, she'll have meetings. And she was right, 2 meetings did end up occurring. But that gave me a clear stretch. And when I woke up, I sat down, even though I was supposed to start work at 8, it's only an 8-hour day on a Friday rather than a 9-hour day. Even though I'm supposed to start at 8, I did start at 7:30, which is my usual start time. And I just sat down and I just rolled up my sleeves and I just hit it hard. And I hit the stuff that I knew was going to be difficult. And it took me a good 3/4 of the day to really sort myself out on that. And then I did my status reports. They're looking good. Oh, excuse me. And I had a great day. Oh, Yumiko made a fantastic dinner last night. Had a good walk with the dogs. There was only maybe one thing that kind of challenged me. When I got to the dog park, there was a woman with 3 dogs in the dog park. And I've seen those dogs before. They're not aggressive, but they're yappity. So they'll yap, yap, yap before you get in. And then an older woman was arriving with her small dog. And the dogs were all just going nuts. And there's like a foyer for the dog park, right? You go through one gate to a small area. That's where you de-leash or put your leashes back on if you're leaving the dogs. And then you open the door to the inner dog park, and in they go. And somehow that woman coming in, I got in first to the foyer area. And I didn't unleash the dogs because everybody was going nuts. And there was a big bulldog on the outside of the fence. And that's what was driving everybody nuts. Anyway, I just saw it. I thought, oh, this is a bad situation, and it's like watching 2 ships, kind of about to collide. There's 3 ships in this case, with the dog outside, 3 dogs inside, and then my dog and my 2 dogs and the woman that was coming in all together. So I pulled my 2 dogs to the corner of the little foyer area, and I stood there and I just told the woman, I'll let you go, because I didn't want all of our dogs to be untangled. I thought it'd be better just one at a time, right? And the other reason was I thought I wasn't worried about her dogs being the problem. I was worried about this dog being the problem, because he gets aggressive around bulldogs. He hates them. And I was afraid that his aggression, which he was visibly manifesting towards the bulldog on the other side of the gate, like outside the dog park, would, turn into a fight. So I held him to the back. It was really tricky. The woman that came in was nervous. She even said, I don't know, maybe this wasn't such a good idea. And it was a tricky process to get all the dogs in and settled. Turns out that the root of the whole problem was a guy on the outside of the fence that was sitting on the grass. He was the owner of the big bulldog. It was a big bulldog. And he was letting the dog run without a leash. That's what the woman was referring to, because she had approached the dog park from the other side. She had encountered that big bulldog walking on its own without the leash. It scared the crap out of her with her little dog. And that man was just letting the big bulldog meander along the edge of the dog park, driving all of the dogs nuts. It was interesting. So I think that I handled it the right way in the moment. Maybe if I could have assessed it a little, because the commotion was going on as I approached. And maybe I should have just held back and not entered the dog park. Yeah, if I'd been a little more attentive, I would have seen that. But in the moment, I think I handled it well. I didn't get upset in any way. I just simply assessed the situation. I said, my dog's going nuts, this one in particular, and he drives the other one nuts. When he goes nuts, the other one kind of follows suit. And so I just kind of pulled him aside, let it all sort out, and then came back in. Then I realized that I had been a little bit less than friendly. I was not at all mean, not at all. Just literally not engaging. I'm usually a very amicable person. I'm very, hey, how you doing? Good night, nice weather, all that kind of stuff. That's me. And I wasn't, because I was guarded with that situation. So another woman came in later, and by then that woman that caused it said she wasn't sure she had come. She had left. She had decided she'd had enough. She did come in, sorted it all out, stayed for 5-10 minutes, and then left. I did throw her a smile. That doesn't sound right. Because I was sitting on one bench on one side of the park. She was sitting on the other. So I just kind of sitting there reading my book, and I closed the book and just looking for a chance to catch her eye. That doesn't sound right either. And I got that. So I got that across the gulf. And then another woman came in later, and that was a problem. Because, and I learned this from the old timers at the dog park, you need to take your leash off. She was being very guarded of her timid little dog. And like I said, the other woman who was still there, the first woman, with her 3 yappity dogs, they were being yappity and going all over it, and the woman didn't take the leash off. Furthermore, she held it in her arms, and now the dogs are like, and she doesn't want to let it down. The trick is to unleash the dogs, let them sniff each other at the gate for a little bit if they're yappeting and stuff, and then open the gate, and usually they'll sort it out. So I ended up talking with her as well, and just, so I tried to engage some friendliness. Came home, gosh, the dinner Yumiko made, we just knocked it out of the park. She's just been home run every night. Watched 2 full episodes of Midnight Diner. I know I say good, my principle of the good, the objective of the good and effective use of time suggests not to watch reruns, but I just enjoy it so much. So maybe now I understand why, if it is a good use of time, right? You can watch a rerun, it can be a good use of time. Yeah. And then got to bed early, not really early, 9:30ish, something like that. It's a good day. Very pleased with that solid day of work. I got that from reading Dr. Johnson, who was talking about, with Boswell, about melancholy in particular, for something we'd probably call depression. Excuse me, and Dr. Johnson told Boswell, hard work and life challenge, that's the thing to do. It's just as when you're down, throw yourself into your work and maybe enjoy the blessing of a difficult life, right? Because that'll distract you. And also he says, don't talk to anybody about it. Just push right through it. The talking about it focuses on it. Just, that old school. It's so interesting to hear them talk, because in the biography, in the biography, especially Mrs. Hester Thrall writes in the margins, they're always talking about how this new age, 250 years ago being the new age, right? And they say the same thing that everybody always says, everything's gone to crap. It was all the crap 250 years ago too. Okay, let's do the good life. 7 objectives, 30 principles, as follows. My first objective is to be always ready to die, to have my life in order, my relationships, my life's work, and my finances, and all my affairs in order, so that I'm ready to go. Bags are packed and ready to go nowhere. Next is to make good and effective use of time, to not waste my days or my nights, definitely not waste my time working. Number 3 is the development and maintenance of good and sound life principles. That's these 7 and 30, to work on them steadily every day and to put them into practice throughout the day. Next is the cultivation of good emotional reactions, to make myself into a position where I react well to the day, every day. Not flying off the handle, and nor taking things less than the seriousness that they deserve. That's what I did yesterday, I think, in the dog park. I reacted well to it. I thought that I was emotional, so I didn't have much to react to, but I just kept I retreated. I retreated to the corner to just let things sort themselves out. Mainly because I had a boxer, to stretch that analogy, who was a little bit, this black dog, who was a little punchy. Next is the performance of good actions, just doing good things throughout the day. And then the recognition of my true limits and my true opportunities, what is within the sphere of my capabilities and what is not. And then to do just one thing at a time, and to do that thing slowly and deliberately and with resolution. Like yesterday, my gosh, what an object lesson that was, to wake up, say, I got a full day of work ahead of me, and to resolve, I'm going to jump into it and even start half an hour early, and to pick the hardest task and to tackle it. Man, did I feel good. And that's what Ralph Waldo Emerson would say, right? Mr. Emerson, right above my left shoulder here, throw yourself into your work. I wish I could remember, it's up there on the shelf. I wish I could remember his exact words. Do your work, and something like, about the good feeling that comes of a good solid day's work. Okay, now the 30 principles. The first one is the principle of war. To fight against the things that I think are true, that I already think are true, to not rest upon them, but to work to destroy them. If I was a Christian, for example, I would work daily to show how I was wrong. Likewise, if I was any religion, if I was a scientist, I would be working to demonstrate that the hypotheses that I've formulated are incorrect. As just a guy, I work to disprove my beliefs in my objectives and my principles, thinking that they're sound. Most notably, the war lately is the one called the pirate ride, the suggestion that free will is an illusion. I fight that one a lot. The others, I've been fighting them for years. They seem to have held up so far. The second principle is the principle of reason, and the sub-principles of honesty, objectivity, and doubt, which are the frames of mind that I want to have in place as I pursue the aforementioned war. And it's just the frame of mind that I want to have in general. Number 3 is the homunculus, the suggestion that we have no soul, but we do have a consciousness that we get to enjoy for some years of our life. Then comes the Anchorhold, the idea that our consciousness is trapped within our bodies. It won't escape because, like I said, I don't think we have a soul. I don't think there's anything surviving our death. The consciousness is going down with the ship. Next comes the home of good and evil. Likewise, as the consciousness is trapped in our head, so too our concepts of good and evil, right and wrong, etc. These are just opinions and ideas that we maintain. They don't exist anywhere out there. There are no 10 commandments. Well, I mean, there are. They're in the Bible. Which book is it? Exodus? I think it's in Exodus. Well, there's 2 versions of the 10 Commandments, so they're in there. They're in the Old Testament, but they don't pervade the universe, right? There's no thou shalt honor thy father and mother on the plains of Mars. Next comes purpose. And my 3 purpose are to be a good husband and father, to get my daughter to successful adulthood, and then to be helpful as much as I can, and then to be a virtuous human being, helping to pursue the well-being of thinking creatures, including myself. And then finally to share the message, the story and message of my book, Going Alone. Next comes atomic principle. Everything is made of bits and pieces, flowing and changing, forever transforming. Then including you and me. And then the principle of nature. Everything has some particular nature, and it's good to recognize what that is and abide it, or at least recognize it and accommodate it, factor it into our calculus of life. Then the pirate ride, like I said before, the idea that free will is an illusion, a very convincing one. It sure does seem like we're making our own choices, but I don't think we are. I mean, we are, but the choices that we make are choices that we have to make. In the moment, we have no other option but to make the choice that we do. Can't prove it, but I'm convinced. Next comes maturity, and the principles of wisdom and fortitude. We are mature when we wisely recall our past successes and failures and strive to do better in the future. Then comes the social principle. We're social creatures. We need each other. We're gregarious, family-oriented, community-oriented creatures. Then comes public speaking, the principle of public speaking, to use few words, carefully chosen words, deliberate words, and to never ever gossip. This includes in my writing too. And when I'm writing, to revisit, and if it's really important, rewrite it again before I click on the send button to get it right the first time as much as possible. Okay, after that comes, and never ever gossip, right? Don't gossip. Bad. That's a sin, that'll come later. And then comes temperance, and these are principles of suffering, simplicity, and apathy, where temperance is our controlled consumption of life, and as a result, when we deny ourselves what we want, we suffer a little bit because we want it. And such a life is a simple life, and apathy is what we use to disconnect ourselves from the things that are outside of our control. It doesn't mean we don't care about them, but we recognize them as outside of our control. And next comes the horror show. Life is a horrible, just a horrible place. Just terrible things happening all over the place. We're lucky if our lives protect us from a lot of that, but it's still going on. Happening right now, just down the street. Maybe happening to you right now. Maybe coming for me. Almost certainly it is. The horror will be here. It is here. And I just want to remember that and take that into consideration. Then comes the principle called that which must be borne, what must be carried. We have to carry the fact and the consequence of the horror show. We have to carry our responsibilities and our commitments. Next comes the Feast of Offal. The Feast of Offal is what we do when we get upset and toss that upset into the world for all to see, to consume, literally. That's why I call it a feast. It's like you're spewing it out. Gosh darn the gosh darn. And people are like, geez Louise, but meanwhile they're gulping it up. Better him than me. So I try not to do that. I try not to, be the banquet's host, host the banquet, and I try not to consume it either. I used to be the kind of person that would spew my feast into the world, my waste. I don't do that anymore. Next comes distraction. We spend our lives distracting ourselves with our work and our families and our hobbies and TV and sports and religion and others. Whatever you want, you can find a way to distract yourself. From what? You may wonder, what are we distracting ourselves from? That's the next principle. I call it the great indifference. It's the thing on the cover of my book. You really can't see it because you're here with me. But if you would go to that place, to the deep desert, and go alone into the deep desert, You might not see it, and that is seeing it. Not seeing it is seeing it. And that's what we don't want to see. So what you don't see out there is you don't see any evidence of God. You wind up realizing that all the evidences for God that we seem to sustain our beliefs upon are they well up from within, some internal conviction, some personal experience that we think we've had that make us think that God is real, when in fact there's just a howling empty waste out there, just a infinite, seemingly infinite void between the stars. Nothing really of any substance beyond that. We don't want to see that because we want to think that we're not alone. We want to think that someone's looking after us, someone created us and is going to sustain us and keep us safe after death. That doesn't seem to be the case. So we distract ourselves. La 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 la. Look at all this. Oh man, great! I got all good TV. Yeah, reruns. Sports. Yes, that's great. Oh, I love my family. Let's make the house even more comfortable. Close the windows. Turn on the heat. Yeah, make it nice and toasty in here. And let's order a pizza. And then we'll go to church on Sunday and praise God. Thank you for looking after my family, Holy Father, etc., etc. It's a way to get through life. Doesn't seem very honest to me. Doesn't seem very courageous either. I'll just focus on the busyness. Next comes the best seat in the house. To not want to be anyone else, be anywhere else, or be doing anything else, but to be okay where I am, where I'm doing, and who I am. It's a tricky thing to do, all the while striving to be better. That's like, I'm going to be satisfied, and I'm still going to move forward. Then comes the Path of Wildness, which is a way to break out of a current life and into a new life. It's fun to do, to have multiple lives within our one lifetime. I'm getting ready to do it again now. Really looking forward to it. Miko and I are going to move probably to a city called Atami in Japan. Settle down for our retirement. Looking forward to that. Next comes the risk of avoiding risk. The surface level risks of life are things like school and job and marriage and family and home and saving for our old age, preparing for retirement. It's easy to focus on those because all of our society pushes us in those directions, demands it of us, namely. The tricky thing is to find time to seek after who you want to be, finding yourself, so to speak. I know it's cliche, but it's true. It's the reason why that idea never goes away. The right time to do that is after college, in between your career, like 25 to 30, 5 years all to yourself. Off you go. Find yourself, and then come back with whoever you are. It's tough to address both the surface level risk. That's the tough alone, right? That and the deep risk. Most usually get one or the other in some level of sufficiency. Very few can do both. And you can have more than one. You can try more than once at it, but the one from in your 20s, that's the one that does the trick. That's the one that really brings the peace later in life when you're like, yeah, I did it. I know who I am. I did my thing, and I'm glad for every day that I've got, but I'm ready to go whenever time comes. Now, one way to get over that is if you believe in God, if you think you have a soul, and if you think you're going to go to heaven, then you can assuage that worry by saying, I'm covered. I've been born again. I'll have another chance. Yeah, just keep telling yourself that. I don't mean that to be malicious. I mean, it's probably too late at this point, right? If you stop believing, you can be left with an empty bag. and you really can't get that time back. So I guess go on believing. Or not. And make the best use of the time that you've got. The next is called Sin and Damnation. There are 7 sins in my worldview, and these are falsity, being untrue; credulity, believing things too readily; faith, belief founded upon belief. The fact that I believe means that it's right, which is nonsense. Superstition, and categorically nonsensical belief. Authority, believing based on the apparent weight of someone's arguments or their office or their funny hat or robes. And then dogma, belief because, wow, look at the blessed tradition and that big canonical text must be true. And then gossip is the last one. Just talking about other people behind their back. You know you're gossiping when you're talking about someone with someone else in such a way that you would be embarrassed to suddenly discover that person was behind you overhearing what you said. So I just try to make sure I'm never talking in that way about anybody at any time. You would be surprised at how often those things do get back to them. But that's not the reason to not do it. The reason to not do it is to not soil ourselves with that sin, because it leads to damnation, not in the afterlife, but in the here and now. We wind up soiling ourselves and can't feel good about ourselves, or our character is less than admirable. Next comes a complete oblivion. After death, if there's no soul, then there is no God and no heaven or hell. And then all we get is oblivion. We're gonna dissolve away. Our atoms will dissolve away. Our consciousness will wink out. Our atoms will decompose. Our molecules in the atoms go back into the world, and we'll never ever be this again. Not a chance of that happening. Your atoms might be reused by more biology elsewhere, but you're not coming back. Neither am I. So, the time to reach out to our loved ones is now. To make amends is now, and to try to facilitate justice is indeed now. Next comes the great life adventure. One or more experiences that becomes the centerpiece of our identity. That thing we do from 25 to 30 that becomes our story. The thing that leaves us hopefully a bit broken. Certainly quite suntanned, absolutely maybe broke, hopefully not dead. That's another thing. Try to get through college without debt. Go the cheap route. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good the school is. What matters is the institution and your attitude in approaching it, not seeing college as a means to an end, although it certainly is, but as the end in itself. Every class, every chance to push back the horizon. Drop in and audit those classes once in a while. Just walking through the campus, doors open here, and professor in there lecturing away. Find a way to sneak in and sit in the back. See what's going on. Learn something. Squeeze that opportunity. Okay. I talked about the Great Life Adventure, and then the season of philosophy comes next, which is a time to record what we've learned along the way. That's what going alone is. It's chock full of, it's got a storyline there. It's got chapters that kind of form a story, but it's chock full of, the voice of the muse, that spoke to me for a season out there in the desert, and it's largely gone silent now. That's okay. The muse had it say. Next comes the bullseye aim, striving to hit some target, but then usually missing by a bit. Then the uphill climb, the steady climb up through life to not stop. Like Harold, My neighbor says that I meet out in the street whenever he sees me, he gives me a faint punch. He's in his 80s. He's like, he says, don't stop. He doesn't know my name, but he says, don't stop. Don't stop. It's so plaintive. He says it every night, every time now. Isn't that interesting how sometimes old people, they don't impart their, how did I do with my thing yesterday? I did my journal entry, my book, and my reading. Yep, I get a circle. The old people don't, sometimes they don't share their wisdom through, like in a lecture, like a professor that they share it in, anecdote. And in Harold's case, kind of a pleading warning, right? I mean, he says, like the last 2 or 3 times that I've seen him, he says the same thing. Don't stop. Don't stop whatever you're doing. He's referring to his leg that he hurt because he'd been a jogger all of his life, and he stopped during COVID for a time, and he started back out, hurt himself, and at his age, he's not coming back. So he sees now that something that he loved, the thing that kept him fit as a Marine, was for all these years, because he's one of those guys that identifies. That was part of his great life adventure, was being a Marine. And now and he saw that being fit, that running daily like that is the connection, and he's lost that. His identity, it's not a matter that he can't run. It's a matter that he's no longer that guy who could run. And it really bothers him a lot. So I saw him the other day, he had the black, thing around his leg. He saw me, came across the street. He'll go out of his way to come talk, because he's an old man and nobody wants to talk to him anymore. He's got nobody to talk to. Everybody's moved on. He and his wife, there's a gulf between them. He's told me. She's settling down. The way that he seems to describe it, and he's not a man of words, but he is a man that conveys his meaning. The way he's kind of described it is that she's already reclining back into the grave. You can do that. Rudy, you can do that before you die. You can settle into your coffin before you die. And she's done that. I met her once. Harold's not ready for that. Even though, like I said, he's not a man of words, he's a man of action. And he does his miles a day of walking, or he did running before. And he's very fit. He's not a tall man, but he's stout. So when he sees me, he'll cross the street. He walks right up to me, and without fail. They call me Flash. He'll sit there. You kind of get this turning look on his face. I shouldn't have stopped. And I wish I hadn't stopped. Doctor says I need to wear this brace thing. I just stopped during COVID. 45 years, 50, I don't know what. Running every day. I can't do it anymore. Now it's his wife over there. She's snuggled down into her coffin. Not laying prone yet, but sitting up in the coffin, right? The wooden there. I picture an old kind of coffin, not a casket, right? A coffin that kind of has the form fitting to the body, the angles. Because she never leaves the house, he told me. A lot of these old people don't. He leaves the house every day, at least just to walk. And you just kind of get this sense that, this is the beginning of the end. Now that he can't run, his identity is kind of lost, his conduit to fitness, to the sense that he's still got some youth and life and potential left in him. Not much. Not much. No, you reach a point when you're really old that nobody even gives a damn to hear what you have to say anymore. You become irrelevant. I already feel it happening. Not in earnest, but I feel it coming. That must be scary to him. I know he doesn't picture it the way I'm describing it. This is my own impression about the coffin. Because there's a coffin next to his wife, right, for him. And she must want his company there. Although she's not thinking that way either. It's the way they're going down together. Well, she's going down first, and then the people exactly who live next door. I won't talk about that. I'll leave that alone. That's cuts a little too close to. Well, I'm worried that they might see this. I know it's a long shot, but I don't think Harold will ever see this. I don't want to talk about people that gossip. I don't think I'm gossiping about Harold. I'm not. I don't think so. I hope not. I don't think so. I'm using it as something to learn from. I guess kind of that can be gossip. Maybe I am doing that. Nah, he doesn't want to go to that. He's not ready to climb into his coffin just yet. So I'll look forward to seeing him. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go out of my way. Maybe I'll cross the street to say hi to him. Yeah. That's good. That's good enough. All right, well, is that the end of it? No, a few more. I talked about the uphill climb, arena and utility. Life is an arena for the application of our principles towards our objectives. Did I talk about the bullseye aim? No. It's striving for the mark but usually missing. Arena and utility. Nothing is enough. Kind of a version of temperance, but a reminder to try to really not to try to avoid acquiring things, but instead get rid of things. Something that old people do kind of instinctively when they get really old. And then then finally the principle of fun, a reminder to have a good time, to anticipate what's to come, to enjoy looking back, but to also enjoy the moment of now, remembering that the moment of now is fraught. As for today, after this, I'm going to start this upload. I'll go read the Bible. I'm on Isaiah 41 this morning. After that, I'll go downstairs. I'll feed the dogs, feed myself, do a little bit of my house cleaning, and then I'm going to go off and have coffee with my former boss. I'm going to go see Louis. So that's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, be safe, but not too safe. Talk to you later.